Wednesday, 8th of July, 1942. Dearest Kitty, it seems like years since Sunday morning. So much has happened, it's as if the whole world has suddenly turned upside down. But as you can see, Kitty, I'm still alive, and that's the main thing, Father says. I'm alive, all right, but don't ask me how or where. You probably don't understand a word I'm saying, and so I'll begin by telling you what happened Sunday afternoon. At 3 o'clock, Hello had left, but was supposed to come back later. The doorbell rang. I didn't hear it since I was out on the balcony, lazily reading in the sun. A little while later, Margot appeared in the kitchen doorway, looking very agitated. Father has received a call-up notice from the SS, she whispered. Mother has gone to see Mr. Van Daan. Mr. Van Daan is Father's business partner and a good friend. I was stunned. A call-up. Everyone knows what that means. Visions of concentration camps and lonely cells raced through my head. How could we let Father go to such a fate? Of course he's not going, declared Margot as we waited for Mother in the living room. Mother's gone to Mr. Van Daan to ask whether we can move to our hiding place tomorrow. The Van Daans are going with us. There'll be 7 of us all together. Silence. We couldn't speak. The thought of Father off visiting someone in the Jewish hospital and completely unaware of what was happening, the long wait for Mother, the heat, the suspense, all this reduced us to silence. Suddenly the doorbell rang again. That's Hello, I said. Don't open the door, exclaimed Margot to stop me, but it wasn't necessary since we heard Mother and Mr. Van Daan downstairs talking to Hello, and then the two of them came inside and shut the door behind them. Every time the bell rang, either Margot or I had to tiptoe downstairs to see if it was Father, and we didn't let anyone else in. Margot and I were sent from the room as Mr. Van Daan wanted to talk to Mother alone. When she and I were sitting in our bedroom, Margot told me that the call-up was not for Father, but for her. At this second shock, I began to cry. Margot is 16. Apparently they want to send girls her age away on their own. But thank goodness she won't be going. Mother had said so herself, which must be what Father had meant when he talked to me about going into hiding. Hiding? Where would we hide? In the city? In the country? In a house? In a shack? When? Where? How? These were questions I wasn't allowed to ask, but they still kept running through my mind. Margot and I started packing our most important belongings into a satchel. The first thing I stuck in was this diary, then curlers, handkerchiefs, school books and a comb, and some old letters. Preoccupied by the thought of going into hiding, I stuck the craziest things in the satchel, but I'm not sorry. Memories mean more to me than dresses. Father finally came home around 5 o'clock, and we rang Mr. Kleiman to see if he could come by that evening. Mr. Van Daan left and went to get Miep. Miep arrived and promised to return later that night, taking with her a bag full of shoes, dresses, jackets, underwear and stockings. After that, it was quiet in our flat. None of us felt like eating. It was still hot, and everything was very strange. We had rented out our big upstairs room to a Mr. Goldschmidt, a divorced man in his 30s, who apparently had nothing to do that evening. Despite all our polite hints, he hung around until 10 o'clock. Miep and Jan Gies came at 11. Miep, who worked for Father's company since 1933, has become a close friend, and so has her husband Jan. Once again, shoes, stockings, books and underwear disappeared into Miep's bag and Jan's deep pockets. At 11:30, they too disappeared. I was exhausted, and even though I knew it'd be my last night in my own bed, I fell asleep right away and didn't wake up until Mother called me at 5:30 the next morning. Fortunately, it wasn't as hot as Sunday. A warm rain fell throughout the day. The 4 of us were wrapped in so many layers of clothing, it looked as if we were going off to spend the night in a refrigerator. And all that just so that we could take more clothes with us. No Jew in our situation would dare leave the house with a suitcase full of clothes. I was wearing 2 vests, 3 pairs of pants, a dress. Over that, a skirt, a jacket, a raincoat, 2 pairs of stockings, heavy shoes, a cap, a scarf, and lots more. I was suffocating even before we left the house, but no one bothered to ask me how I felt. Margot stuffed a satchel with school books, went to get her bicycle, and with Miep leading the way, rode off into the great unknown. At any rate, that's how I thought of it, since I still didn't know where our hiding place was. At 7:30, we too closed the door behind us. Mochi, my cat, was the only living creature I said goodbye to. According to a note we left for Mr. Goldschmidt, she was to be taken to the neighbours, who would give her a good home. The strip beds, the breakfast things on the table, the pound of meat for the cat in the kitchen, all of these created the impression that we'd left in a hurry. But we weren't interested in impressions. We just wanted to get out of there, to get away and reach our destination in safety. Nothing else mattered. More tomorrow. Yours, Anne. Thursday the 9th of July, 1942. Dearest Kitty, so there we were, father, mother and I, walking in the pouring rain, each of us with a satchel and a shopping bag filled to the brim with the most varied assortment of items. The people on their way to work at that early hour gave us sympathetic looks. You could tell by their faces that they were sorry they couldn't offer us some kind of transport. The conspicuous yellow star spoke for itself. Only when we were walking down the street did father and mother reveal, little by little, what the plan was. For months, we'd been moving out as much of our furniture and apparel out of the flat as we could. It was agreed that we'd go into hiding on the 16th of July. But because of Margot's call-up notice, the plan had to be moved forward 10 days, which meant we'd have to make do with less orderly rooms. The hiding place was located in father's office building. That's a little hard for outsiders to understand, so I'll explain. Father didn't have a lot of people working in his office, just Mr. Kugler, Mr. Kleiman, Miep, and a 23-year-old typist named Bep Voschgul, all of whom were informed of our coming. Mr. Voschgul, Bep's father, worked in the warehouse along with 2 assistants, none of whom were told anything. Here's the description of the building. The large warehouse on the ground floor is used as a workroom and a storeroom, and is divided into several different sections, such as the stockroom and the milling room, where cinnamon, cloves, and a pepper substitute are ground. Next to the warehouse doors is another outside door, a separate entrance to the office. Just inside the office door is a second door, and beyond that a stairway. At the top of the stairs is another door with a frosted window on which the word office is written in black letters. This is the big front office, very large, very light, and very full. Bep, Miep, and Mr. Kleiman worked there during the day. After passing through an alcove containing a safe, a wardrobe, and a big stationery cupboard, you come to the small, dark, stuffy back office. This used to be shared by Mr. Kugler and Mr. Van Daan, but now Mr. Kugler is its only occupant. Mr. Kugler's office can also be reached from the passage, but only through a glass door that can be opened from the inside, but not easily from the outside. If you leave Mr. Kugler's office and proceed through the long, narrow passage past the coal store and go up 4 steps, you can find yourself in the private office, the showpiece of the entire building. Elegant mahogany furniture, a linoleum floor covered with rugs, a radio, a fancy lamp, everything first class. Next door is a spacious kitchen with a water heater and 2 gas rings, and beside that, a lavatory. That's the first floor. A wooden staircase leads from the downstairs passage to the second floor. At the top of the stairs is a landing with doors on either side. The door on the left takes you up to the spice storage area, attic and loft in the front part of the house. A typically Dutch, very steep, ankle-twisting flight of stairs also runs from the front part of the house to another door opening onto the street. The door to the right of the landing leads to the secret annex at the back of the house. No one would ever suspect that there were so many rooms behind that plain grey door. There's just one small step in front of the door, and then you're inside. Straight ahead of you is a steep flight of stairs. To the left is a narrow hallway opening onto a room that serves as the Franks' family living room and bedroom. Next door is a smaller room, the bedroom and study of the 2 young ladies of the family. To the right of the stairs is a bathroom, a windowless room with just a sink. The door in the corner leads to the lavatory, and another one to Margot's and my room. If you go up the stairs and open the door at the top, you're surprised to see such a large, light and spacious room in an old canal-side house like this. It contains a gas cooker, thanks to the fact that it used to be Mr. Kugler's laboratory, and a sink. This will be the kitchen and the bedroom of Mr. and Mrs. Van Daan, as well as the general living room, dining room and study for us all. A tiny side room is to be Peter Van Daan's bedroom. Then, just as in the front part of the building, there's an attic and a loft. So there you are. Now I've introduced you to the whole of our lovely annex. Yours, Anne. And we've got a kind of description or the picture of what the house, so you can see exactly where they would have been living. So yeah, kind of Friday, 10th of July, 1942. Dearest Kitty, I probably bored you with my long description of our house, but I still think you should know where I've ended up. How I ended up here is something you'll work out from my next letters. But first, let me continue my story, because as you know, I hadn't finished. After we arrived at 263 Prisongracht, Miep quickly led us through the long passage and up the wooden staircase to the next floor and into the annex. She shut the door behind us, leaving us alone. Margot had arrived much earlier on her bike and was waiting for us. Our living room and all the other rooms were so full of stuff that I can't find the words to describe it. All of the cardboard boxes that had been sent to the office in the last few months were piled on the floors and the beds. The small room was filled from floor to ceiling with linen. If we wanted to sleep properly, in properly made beds that night, we had to get going and tidy up this mess. Margot and Mother were unable to move a muscle. They lay down on their bare mattresses, tired, miserable, and I don't know what else. But Father and I, the two cleaner-uppers in the family, started in right away. All day long we unpacked boxes, filled cupboards, hammered nails and tidied up the mess until we fell exhausted into our clean beds at night. We hadn't eaten a hot meal all day, but we didn't care. Mother and Margot were too tired and keyed up to eat, and Father and I were too busy. Tuesday morning we started where we left off the night before. Bep and Miep went shopping with our ration coupons. Father worked on our blackout screens, we scrubbed the kitchen floor, and were once again busy from morning to night. Until Wednesday, I didn't have a chance to think about the enormous change in my life. Then, for the first time since our arrival in the secret annex, I found a moment to tell you all about it and realise what had happened to me and what was yet to happen. Yours, Anne.